It's Costains. All of the big multinationals used to fund this body called the Consulting Association to run the blacklist for them. And then every time you applied for a job, they used to check your name on the list, and if your name was on the list, you never got a job. We know how much blacklisting there was because we've seen the invoices. We've got the invoices because they've been seized, and the government's now got these invoices. And for every time they checked your name on the list, it cost £2.20. And the last set of invoices that were going out, Balfour Beatty, £7,500. Skanska's, £28,000. Sir Robert McAlpine, £28,000. So at £2.20 a time, it shows you how much blacklisting's going on. There was 3,500 people on that list. There's 5 of us here today who are on the blacklist, but I'll tell you now, there's probably more of you, because most of the people on the list haven't got their file yet. Because they don't send it to you, you have to think you're on the list and apply and ring up and get a copy to get a copy of your file. So genuinely, people should ring up and try and get a copy of their file. I've done my little bit. Just to there's one bit in it. There's one bit in this file that I'm really. We've been doing this for a couple of years now, campaigning, going outside their head offices, going into building sites. The lads who are involved in the business stuff. Can I just say, I'm not a spark, okay? I'm an engineer. I'm not even in Unite, I'm in UCAT originally. I will say, we've been doing campaigning on blacklisting for 3 years, and there is nothing that's been better for the campaign than the Besner dispute. Bar nothing, they were the people who bloody organised and got blacklisting on the agenda, you know? Because it's all right getting an MP to talk about it, it's all right getting a lawyer to raise it in the court, but there's nothing as good as actually going outside building sites and occupying building sites and getting the blokes on the building sites talking about it. And the only people who've ever been able to do that is the sparks with the business stuff. So genuinely, my appreciation for anyone who's involved in the business stuff. Round of applause for that. There's just a... We're in the middle of a High Court claim at the moment. All of these lads here, we're taking a case to the High Court. We've got the most expensive barrister in Britain. His name's Sir Hugh Tomlinson, QC. He's the barrister who's represented everyone in the News of the World High Court phone hacking claims, and he's doing it for us for no win, no fee, because basically he thinks we can't lose here. So we're all very, very happy. So when we're going to the High Court, going to the High Court in a few weeks' time, Balfour Beatties will be in there. Jerry Harvey, one of the reasons we're here is Jerry Harvey, the fella here.
Only one Jerry Harvey.
Yeah. He's the director of Balfour Beatty. He works in that office, and in court and in the Houses of Parliament, he has been outed. In fact, not even outed. In court, he stood up and admitted that he was the person who went to the blacklisting meetings. He was the person who put the information on people's blacklisting files. He was the person who wrote stuff about people and got people sacked just because they were a member of a trade union. You weren't blacklisted because we were fighting. We weren't blacklisting because we were nicking stuff. We weren't blacklisted because we were a member of a trade union. It's bloody outrageous. This is 2012, meant to be a civilised society. If this was happening in bloody Eastern Europe or in China, they'd be going bloody mad about it. If it's happening in this country, in multinationals, no one wants to know nothing about it. It's bloody outrageous. This is the reason we're here to do it today. I'll just leave you on one thing. Colin's got a copy of his file as well. I've got my file. We've got other people talking. Just to show you how terrible this stuff is. When we go to the High Court, this is the thing that I want to sue most about. This is one of the managers has written stuff about me, and this is actually word for word what's written on my file. Described as small and talking like a young Alf Garnett. No, I think that deserves going to the bloody High Court just over there. Thank you very much. Colin, you're up.
All right, boys. Jerry Harvey, he actually wrote to me in 2008 because I took him to tribunal before, like we got our files. because I knew they were blacking me, I just couldn't prove it, you know. Is this on? Aye. I knew they were blacking me, I just couldn't prove it. It was all anecdotal, as they say, you know. So I wrote to him. It was actually a lady from the HR by the name of Brenda O'Connor I spoke to initially. She passed me on to the rat Jerry Harvey, who wrote me a letter saying there is no blacklist, we're not blacklisting, you're paranoid. He also copied that to my tribunal, and it got thrown out because the information was only anecdotal. Anyway, lo and behold, when they busted the Consulting Association's offices in 2009, my file, and there's a thing on my file here, and it's written here, April 2008, 3223F, which is the code for Balfour Kilpatrick, as they were. They've had to do expensive name change, by the way, because of the bad publicity they got in the Guardian. Good. Has received an IT application from the above on the grounds that he is being blacklisted. Above is being represented by Thompson Solicitors, who are associated with the Transport and General Workers Union. Representation is on a no-win, no-fee basis. Well, they got that wrong. It was being represented by Thornley's, and it wasn't on a no-win, no-fee. But then there's a note on it, do not divulge. And then the source says it's come from Balfour Kilpatrick. Well, we know now that Jerry Harvey was the actual person who was liaising with the Consulting Association with the aptly named Kerr. Yeah. Now, obviously, he's committed perjury because he wrote to the courts and under oath, like his solicitor, or Balfour Kilpatrick as they were then, BBAS's solicitor, said there is no blacklist, and he brandished this letter from Harvey saying there was no blacklist. Now, perjury is a crime. Being a union rep's not a crime. I haven't committed any crime. That finger in there's committed crimes, but he's never been hauled up before for anybody for it, you know what I mean? And that's got to stop. We've got to start seeing some of these people in court, and we've got to start seeing some of these people go to prison, you know, for breaching health and safety regulations. We really have. And see, even if we win in the high courts and all that, you know, and it's not about compensation. I used to be able to walk up and down the length of bread for this country and get a start with impunity, you know what I mean? I'm pretty good at what I do. Now I can't get through the gates on a bleeding site. So I can't represent young lads that's getting maimed and killed because of things like this, you know what I mean? I'd like to be able to do that again, lads. I really would. And so even if we win in the courts, we've still got a campaign to get all these blacklisted lads back into sites and back into work. Thank you.
We're also here, as Dave said earlier on, because of Balfour Beatty and the failure to adhere to national agreements. They continue to use unskilled labour, they continue to use agency workers, which is all against the GIB agreements that we are all signed up to. I have to say something about Stuart Hume. Stuart has been on his notice for a wee while now, and they've been playing games with him over the last couple of months. Stuart was due to go on holiday today, and he was told by the HR department he's not required back. So he's due back at work on the 10th of September, and we have to send a clear message. If he is not reinstated by the 10th of September, then action will be taken by the rank and file and by the Commonwealth and Grangemouth to make sure that he is reinstated. So that's a clear message we have to take to Balfour Beatty here today. After today's demonstration, we will take the fight to Crown House. Crown House have withdrawn from the GIB agreements, and they will get to a stage where they will implement the new terms and conditions. At the moment, they've denied that that is actually happening. But demonstrations have started in London, they've started in Wales. We will be embarking on some demonstrations up here. We've got a list now of a number of jobs that they're on and jobs that are coming off. And that is all of our focus in the future will be towards Crown House and get them back into the GIB, because this is BESNA Mark II, and if they get away with it, everyone will follow suit. They're all sitting on the fence waiting for Crown House to succeed, and we cannot allow that to happen. So it's about mobilising, getting out of it together, in the same way we've done under BESNA 1, and getting that support and getting out and fighting for our futures. It's your futures, and we have got to stand together, stand firm, and make sure that our futures are all protected, not just for ourselves but for future generations. Thanks.
You just encouraged me, singing and things like that. No, that's what Jake does. There's a few stories about Jake singing on the sites, but we'll tell you that later. Just to say that what Jim and that has said is really the serious matter, because what happened to Stuart is really serious, and we need to make sure that would be the test of our strength after the Bednar. That would be, we would send a message that we still exist, we are serious, and we are determined, and we're going to defend anybody that we can see is victimised. And therefore that what I say and joke or whatever doesn't take anything away for the seriousness of what Jim has posed there and about Crown House. But I have to tell you that I was really disappointed with my file. I thought I might send them some stuff. But to be honest, some of the stuff was quite revealing. I had been out of the construction industry and not been able to get a job. I remember starting with Scottish Power, and at the time when I was started, about 13 years later, a charge hand, a foreman, came up at his retirement due and he said, "Willie, can you not remember what happened at the start of your career in Scottish Power?" I said, "Aye." I said, "We're doing things." He says, "Oh, aye." He says, "They realised that they'd made a mistake by starting you." And in the we were dragged up, myself, senior engineer, were dragged up to Scottish Power's head office, and we were told we had 6 months to do you, to get rid of you and get you out the door. I tell you what happened, as I was on a site, I was on a building site in Dander Hall. Actually, it wasn't a building site, we were rewiring the houses for those storage heaters that nobody can afford, right? There I was taken to one of the jobs I'd done. I'd done about 9 circuits, white meter, the consumer unit and all the rest. And he took me up the stairs and he said, "Willie," says, "can you lift that carpet?" And there I lifted the carpet. And between the door standard, there was a rickety old floorboard. He said, "Can you lift that?" And I lifted it, and there was wires going over the steel beam. And obviously, they had started to wear and tear. He says, "You don't think that's bad workmanship?" I said, "Well, I'm not going to make a comment on that, but I said it's not the right way to do it." "What do you mean it's not the right way to do it?" "You did it." I said, No. I says, "These houses have been up for about 30 years. Aye." I says, "My wires are not as grey as that and dirty as that. That's the original bloody wiring." He says, "Where's your cables then?" And just so happens I had done the job right. It's probably about 45% of it was dodgy, right? Nevertheless, I took the skirting board and there was the cables, nicely clipped. I don't know why I did that, but I must have had some kind of something to tell me to do it right. And he took me back to the job. I had 3 more attempts by them. One of them was they took me up the road to an engineer and he said, "We've seen you on Princess Street." I said, "Aye." He said, "You were selling papers." I said, "I was selling papers, but I didn't sell them upside down like that guy there." Right? Aye, the truth behind the massacre. And he said to me, I said, No. He said, "I wasn't selling papers. This is the quality of the engineer. They were really sharp." He said, "Well, what were you doing?" "I was handing out leaflets." He says, "Oh, that's all right then." Mental. Anyway, what happened, that foreman told me 14 years later at his retirement due, says, "Well, at that time, it was just a tick. See now, they'll need a fucking JCB to get rid of you." And that was the truth. I was 14 years out of the industry, and on my file, I stood for the election in the union. I stood for a genuine executive position in the union. And I was interested in comment, not the fact that he said, what he was saying about me on the file and whatever, but it said underneath it, "Union sources says he's got no chance." I thought, well, that was bloody accurate. Actually, we came quite close at that time, me and a guy called Mike Gaskell. So that's what I'm saying. When I went to Grangemouth one day, a shop steward phoned me up. He says, "Willie, there's a chance of a start at Grangemouth." I says, "Fine, I'll get on the bus." Monday morning, I got the bus for Leith. I turned up. They were too short. I was the only one there that was looking for a job. They started me. 3 days later, the steward was dragged in and he was shown a file. He was shown a file on me through the aims of industry. You see, when other people talk about this kind of file, I've no doubt about it. There's other files. There's stuff hidden away in other people and companies that were in existence before aims of industry, the Economic League, all the people that put us on a file. I tell you, if we were in Chile, we would have been in some bloody stadium by now and shot to bits. right? Because that's how serious they were taking it. So what I'm saying to you is have confidence. I'm proud of my record. I'm not ashamed of my record, because we ken that we have to stand up, and the people that stand up matter. I went to see a guy just recently, John Carlos. You might not ken what John Carlos is, but loads of people wear the t-shirt. It's two black guys with a fist in the air for the 1968 Olympics, when they stood and defied it. And you know what he said? He said, who will, and this is what he said in the wee speech the other month there when he spoke in Edinburgh. He said, who will remember Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton in 100 years' time? I tell you who they'll remember. They'll remember Nelson Mandela. They'll remember Rosa Parks. They'll remember Muhammad Ali. And they'll remember John Carlos. And see after their name, it'll call Troublemaker. 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 Well, we are fucking troublemakers, because you can be proud of that. Okay, shut up.
That'll get us on the telly.
Nick him now.
Anyway, you've heard the Alf Garnet now, a poor impression of what I've seen is, but can I begin by saying very, very seriously, delighted to be here today. It took me about half an hour to find it, but eventually I did. I did try Comrade Hart's phone, paid for by the taxpayer, but unfortunately forever it was switched off. But seriously, I'm here today because I want to send a message to the Balfour Beattys of this world, the big construction companies. It really doesn't have to be this way. Long gone are the days when trade unions and trade unionists were seen as the enemy within. We now have a coalition government that see people like you as the enemy within. In fact, we still have Conservative MPs describing British workers as lazy bastards. This is Tory MPs who are on their holidays, their 7 weeks holidays just now, calling you lazy bastards. So that's the kind of people that we're dealing with. So I say to the Balfour Beatties of this world, you know, it's far more easy to be progressive. It's far more easier, far more comfortable to work with your employees in a more sensible, constructive way. Treat them properly and you get the best return. You don't have to get into this blacklisting, you don't have to get into undermining or terms and conditions of people's employment, terms and conditions that have been negotiated over the years peacefully, and you've still made millions, if not billions of pounds profit. How much profit do you want to make before you stop attacking and victimising people at the workplace? And I say that from the point of view, I think Wally spoke about the Economic League. In my earlier days, I was blacklisted by the Economic League. I was banned from work for 3 years. At the time I didn't know that because we didn't have the advanced technology that we have these days in terms of tracking down who was blacklisted and who wasn't blacklisted. But I have to say it's soul destroying being blacklisted by companies, particularly in the construction industry. And I've been with people like you who go into a building site and after a week or a fortnight they suddenly discover that either you're not very good at your job or they don't like you. And then you build up a complex and say, well, people don't like me, why am I not getting a job? And the only reason you're not getting a job is because you're standing up for your fellow workers and you're making sure that people are working in a health and a safe environment. And that's what trade unions are about. It's about protecting fellow workers. It's about making sure people work in a safe environment. And when they leave their house in the morning, they go back to their house at night time. So my plea is to the Balfour Beatties, you know, stop this behaviour and get back around the table, stop the blacklisting. And I have to say to you, if you can influence any of my Labour colleagues at Westminster, Balfour Beatty had a reception some months ago in the House of Commons where they invited us along as they usually do for a glass of wine or two and tell us what a wonderful company they are and how they treat their employees extremely well. And there's just a small minority of troublemakers who are damaging the company's growth and potential. I then took the opportunity to email every one of my Labour colleagues. I was going to say comrades there, but the police are here. But I took the opportunity to email every one of my Labour colleagues and ask them very, very politely that if they feel it absolutely necessary to go along to this reception and have a couple of glasses of wine with the Balfour Beatties this week, please take the opportunity to remind them that blacklisting is illegal and it should not be allowed. I'm delighted to say, as far as I can make out, not one single Labour MP went along to the reception, so there is hope there that will continue. I also have to say and pay credit to my colleague Ian Davidson, who's carrying out an investigation into blacklisting with the Scottish Affairs Select Committee. Ian is doing a magnificent job. He's working with Unite, he's working with UCAT, he's working with all the trade unions and he's taking evidence from people who have experience of blacklisting. And I sincerely hope at the end of it, when this report is produced by the Scottish Affairs Select Committee, that we can take it into Parliament and we can expose these people for what they're doing. And although it might be unlikely that it will happen, but we would like to canvass or lobby this coalition government as when they're handing out contracts, procurement contracts for British taxpayers' money, then they don't give the contracts to criminals like Balfour Beatty, who are blacklisting people and stopping people from making their own wages in their own workplaces. And that's the kind of pressure we need to bring to bear. To say to Balfour Beatty, if you're going to carry on blacklisting people and being criminalised, then we're coming after you, and you're not getting the contracts and you're not getting the work that you should be getting. So all I can say just in conclusion is say, I'm delighted to be here. Carry on your fight. It's a legitimate fight. You are, as they say, on the side of the angels. You deserve it, and all I can do is I'll work along with my colleagues at Westminster and indeed in the Scottish Parliament to make sure their case gets heard. But if you can, or whatever you can, speak to your own MP, your own MSP, your own councillor, you bring pressure to bear on these people to stop the criminal behaviour. Thanks, sir.
Hear loud and clear. Because when they decided to blacklist me some time ago, they didn't just blacklist me, they blacklisted my family. Now let's think about it as a young man, a young wife, a 6-year-old son and a 4-year-old son. They paid a heavy price for the blacklisting that came to me. And I want to tell you all that when you fight this fight, this is a fight for decency. This is a fight, and it's an intellectual fight as well as an industrial fight. Because when I listen to what some of you have had to say, and I look at some of the things that have happened to individuals, is there any reason we live in an industry where people are feared to lift their head up above the parapet? One thing that I'm happy about, Willie Black was my apprentice, and I'm only too happy that he learned how to do the job the correct way. Because one thing we all learned as trade unionists that were active, you could not afford not to be good at the job you done. Because there was one thing to be paid off for not doing any work. And I can understand sometimes when I look back on that, but I can never understand why somebody that done their work efficiently, correctly, but stood up for the values of the trade union movement were punished beyond belief because of it. And all I'm saying to you is, I want to thank you all for coming. And remember, we didn't do it. They did it. They are the enemy of the working class at this moment in time, and let's stand firm and make sure that message goes back to everybody in the industry, and let us carry on regardless of some of the consequences individuals have had to put up with. Let's rid ourselves of the blacklist, and we can only do that by standing strong. Thank you.